Writing with a certain place of performance in mind always changes some things, but it doesn't really change the core. It's like putting a fluid in a different vessel. I still do me, but I acknowledge the realities and the opportunities of a televised live performance.
Cesar, it's so lovely to meet you here on Zoom.
I finally made it. Sorry for the delay.
No problem at all. So, you have a wonderful career that you're a singer and a songwriter, and you're a producer as well.
Correct.
Yeah. So tell me, where did music start for you?
I've been a working musician for over 20 years, probably. I'd say I did a few other things in between, scattered throughout those years, but I was always involved in music projects throughout all that time. I think the first time I actually made money with music was in my early teens. So that's probably longer ago than 20 years now, thinking about it.
Okay. But do you come from a musical family? Was there a influence somewhere for you?
Yeah, my mom is a composer, pianist, singer, the whole nine. And yeah, my dad is a dance choreographer and dancer. So I'd say there was an artistic approach or an artistic tendency all around me. Yeah.
So did you play instruments when you were younger, or how did you get into the industry?
I'm not an instrumentalist. I'm a vocalist. So that is my instrument. I use a few different instruments to communicate my ideas to my fellow musicians. So I'm literate in a few key instruments, but I never had the passion to learn the craft. I'm not a tool person. I don't like having technology, even the simplest one, in between me and my ideas. But I do like the ability to tell and communicate my vision to everybody and speak in their language. So when I prepare arrangements for a horn section, for example, I cannot play horn really, but I need to know what it's like to play. I need to know what can be played. So to that degree, I did dabble in a few instruments.
And you also took part in the Eurovision Song Contest, and you represented Austria in 2018.
That's correct.
Yeah. And I read also that you wrote the song.
I wrote the song with a colleague of mine, and then we were about 90% finished, and those last 10% just didn't want to come to us. And then a good friend of ours, we sent him what we had, and he just had a brilliant idea. And without him, I probably would have shelved the song. Like we had most of the song very early on, and then we just were running against the wall for like a month, you know. So it's been a collaborative effort, definitely.
But that's amazing. But it's how wonderful that somebody just made it possible that the song is has been heard, and you know, that just did that last little switch.
Yeah, there are some songs that are collaborative in nature, and they just they need perspectives. Like the song was never just my song from the beginning, and it was that kind of song that just came about by communication, and it was just fitting that it was that it also we had to collaborate to finish it. Before that, I used to be more to myself writing. And now, since that experience, I think I opened up a great deal more to just inviting a number of talented people to just listen and contribute. And sometimes it's just having someone in the room can greatly shift the trajectory of a song, if it's a person that has ability.
Yeah, and it's also important for you to open up to that, to allow that to happen, so that you're not that precious about that. It's just your song.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's also a way of, there are these tropes that we grew up with, like we musicians grew up with, like this trope of the self-sufficient artist who doesn't need inspiration. Like, he takes inspiration from life, but doesn't need inspiration from other musicians. And that's like the gold standard. All the greats, they seem to just take the ideas out of the air, and I'm sure some do, but later in life, like after my teenage years, more and more I realized that creativity is so many things for so many people, and I realized that I'm a person who takes inspiration from this collaborative effort, and I'm a deeply communicative person. I'm a very empathic person, and I'm just not that type of person who likes being by himself all the time. And it's really not even about ideas per se, but just the presence of an energy in the room does so much for me.
That's true. You need sometimes just the person to be there to be able to unlock something.
Absolutely.
In you. Yeah, I agree with you there. But now, for example, for Eurovision, when you write a song, do you write a song that you think would appeal to different audiences, or did you just write because it was something that you wanted to write?
Writing with a certain place of performance in mind always changes some things, but it doesn't really change the core. It's like putting a fluid in a different vessel. I still do me, but I acknowledge the realities and the opportunities of a televised live performance, and it would be foolish to not take that into account when structuring the song, when thinking about how the dynamic range should be. Like when you're sitting in the car driving to work, you want a different kind of dynamic range than when you're in the evening and you're watching a huge spectacle and there's about 24 other songs left and right of you. It's just a different place, and definitely when you sit down to write a Eurovision song, which you should be doing, you shouldn't just write a song and then assume it's going to be a Eurovision song. There's something extra that you have to put into it to make it a Eurovision song. And when you do that, you should be very aware also of the visuality. How am I going to interpret this? Is this interpretable? Or am I writing myself into a corner that I can not get out of on stage,
Yeah. And this whole experience, do you think this was worth it? I mean, do you think it's because it's quite a lot of effort that goes into doing that and thinking about that? Would you say for young songwriters, this is something to aim for?
No, not for young ones. It's something to aim for experienced ones. Mm. I mean, for songwriters, it doesn't matter, but for performers, the ones who have to go out there and do it, I would not recommend it to a newcomer. I would not recommend it to somebody who doesn't have their own thing yet, hasn't really done a lot, hasn't toured extensively. I don't think Eurovision can be utilized even creatively by somebody who's just starting out. I think it's unfair also because it's a competitive environment. It's not just like playing a show, it's something more, and you need to have a good foundation as a performer to feel comfortable and still easygoing in a surrounding like that. And recent years have shown that being good in a relaxed environment that you choose yourself, and being good in in the largest competition on earth is two different things entirely. And experience will go a long way towards feeling good at Eurovision.
Yeah. But now you've also, I read, from a very young age started touring, and you were a backing singer.
No, I wasn't touring as a backing singer.
Okay.
There was only 2 times in my entire life that I did backing vocals, and that was the 2 years prior to Eurovision. That's actually how I came to Eurovision. I was asked to kind of oversee the backing choirs, like, because a song has to be translated to a live performance. So sometimes you have to work with the singers who might not even be on the original song. All the choir section, basically, they have to be kind of chiseled into shape and polished until they sound favorably better even than the original, or at least as good as the original. And as the record version. So I was asked to come by, and of course, if I'm already there working, it was clear to me that I will sing as well, and it also saves money for the delegation. So that was the only time up until this point that I did backing vocals. So and then I was so much in love with Eurovision that the year after I just wanted to do the same, and then I did it for two different countries. I didn't sing for 2 different countries, but I worked with 2 different countries, with Serbia and Macedonia, and a bit of Bulgaria as well. So we're actually there with 3 countries. And it was just fun at that point. When I came 2016, the first time to Eurovision, I didn't know what to expect. And I was just extremely positively surprised. And as an event, I just wanted to be part of that. Mm. Yeah.
So you felt it's a very positive experience?
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing negative about it. Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear, because, I think it's hard work and a lot of effort, and of course, like you say, the competition. So it is something that you have to enjoy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it is something that you have to enjoy, and you will enjoy if you just know what you're in for, if you're well prepared, if you do your like, if you're just comfortable doing what you do, these nowadays you have to imagine a startup, a person who's maybe 18, 19 years old at the time when I was already performing in this climate with COVID. The last 2 years they didn't even have chances to perform, So how extensive can their life experience be? So that's why especially now I wouldn't counsel anybody who's just new to go to Eurovision. But otherwise, it's great fun. It's really awesome.
So you're also a producer, and is it just your own music that you produce, or do you also work with other artists?
I have production input. Sorry, my electricity is messing with me. I have production input on a number of projects, and it's just the same way as I described with my song for Eurovision. I might just stumble into a studio and they ask me what would you do with this part of the song, and then I just sit there for a few hours, and then I just had production input. So it's not just limited to myself. It's also not that planned sometimes, You have production input when you have production input. You cannot really plan it. And sometimes, like in the years before I came out as a solo artist myself, I was only hired to do that, to work with the singer in the studio, to get that performance from 90% to 100%. So these things were things I had been doing a lot in the years prior to Eurovision. Yeah.
So tell me, where was your first gig? Where did you sing publicly for the first time?
That's a good question. I think I would say, because it was the first time that I sang publicly as a lead singer with my own material. Before that, I was singing in my mom's band. Everybody sang in that band, so that wasn't such a thing for me. But the first time that I stood on stage alone, performing my own song, I think I was 17 years old. It used to be in Vienna when the Sophiensäle, it probably now is an event space. It used to be much bigger. There were no other parties. There was just kind of a ball venue that held a lot of people when there was an event there. And I was I don't know, I slid into a showcase where I was the first warm-up act before an established German act, and he was the warm-up act for an established American act that night. And I just got the opportunity, so I sat down in the studio, and of course I was not happy with just performing what I already had, so I completely wrote new stuff extra for that concert. And I was really feeling confident about this show, and then I got sick. And had the worst throat ache in my entire life. I'm sure it was stress related, but never mind. I still did the show. I sounded horrible, but I just had to do it. I had to sell it. I just sold it with a bit more dancing and a bit more engagement, and I just got over that first one. Yeah.
Well, I think already, just standing there or just performing and singing, but then having your own material, do you have to have much confidence, I think, to do that, because it's then also the first time you performed it.
It was the first time I performed that particular material. Yeah. I think it's not so much. It's just when you're a performer, it helps when you just deep down know who you are.
Yeah.
So it's not really about thinking a whole lot about how is this going to come across? Am I going to be loved or stuff like that? That's, I think, a separate sentiment. I think most important is that you just know who you are on stage. Yeah.
But I also think sometimes we forget that people started somewhere, and that there was that one performance or the first performance. And sometimes we see somebody already established, and I don't remember that there was a time when it was the first. And so what would your advice be for a young singer who's starting out now in Vienna?
Well, I mean, just take it step by step and just do whatever tickles your fancy. Like everything that excites you, everything that you can feel motivated for, do that. And don't think too goal-oriented, especially if you don't really have a feeling of enthusiasm about it. Don't like nowadays you always see the end product. Everything has to have an amount of likes attached to it, has to have some kind of metric that represents how important or how valuable that is. But you have to be just aware, if you're 20 years old, your job is to just hone your craft and develop what it is that you want to do. And there's plenty of time for likes.
Yeah. But how difficult is it in Vienna to be in the music scene, or in Austria?
In general, speaking from a whole, speaking for all my fellow musicians, I'm sure it's very hard, and there's not much going on. I wouldn't say that I'm a very representative. I don't have a very, very representative situation because I'm known, but yeah, I think it's not so easy, and I think for a newcomer to get a lot of shows, I think you're actually forced to sing a lot of weddings and stuff like that, and corporate gigs, something that I always loathed to do. I never really did that. I was just lucky when I was 17 years old to just get in contact with a few established electronic music artists that really did tour around the world. And I never had to do it like that. I really, I think that wouldn't have inspired me so much, because I like it when there's a lot of enthusiasm about something. I don't like playing music when people are actually just having a bite and talking to each other, chatting. That's I don't really. I like when music is a moment. I like when music is a moment. It's not about me as a person, but I get into my creative space because I'm aware. Okay, I'm now in a moment. I have to dig deep to get something out of myself. But if it's just background noise, and I'm just doing a job, I hate doing music as a job. Music shouldn't be a job. I just don't like that. So I was very lucky to have these great moments and play 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 people shows at age 17, 18 and 19. And so very lucky.
Yeah, so you're used to that energy then from the audience.
Yeah, it's I'm used to that. I'm used to that, and I loved it. And I always transform into something bigger than myself when I'm doing that.
But in Austria, is it important to sing in German, or are people open to English lyrics?
That depends what you mean by in Austria. If your aspiration is to sell music to the Austrian audience exclusively and to perform in Austria exclusively, then it's probably from a monetary standpoint advisable to sing in German. But if that's not what you want to do, there's still plenty of things that you can do. You can publish your music to be heard all over the world, no matter where you are. You can play shows all over the world if you want to, and if you can make a case that you have something to offer. It's sure it would be easy if you're right at the pulse of where everything happens. If you're sitting somewhere in New York where you meet music industry people all the time on the street, but it can be done. Yeah, it can be done.
So tell me, what is your wish for the future now, Cesar?
For myself or for the world?
You can make both.
I mean, for the world, I have so many wishes, especially that the world can get to their necessary learning experiences with as little as possible fallout, pain, and death. I mean, yeah, we need to learn. So we only learn the hard way by discomfort, but I hope it's not going to be that much discomfort. So that's my idea about that. I'm not an utopian that thinks people can achieve like this harmonious stage of existence without any hate, without learning a lot of stuff that we still haven't learned. So I'm realistic about that. So I hope just that the learning will not be too painful. And about myself, I don't really have wishes. I just I live to learn. I live to get to experience new things. And as long as I do that, I'm always doing what I want to do.
So you have many interests, because I see you also are a fitness trainer.
I used to be a fitness trainer. Yeah. I don't do it anymore since Eurovision. Eurovision was marked the point where I said, okay, I'm full-time musician again after a while of doing a lot of different things at once. I never had a solo project prior to 2018. I was always in the background by choice. So since then, I'm not a trainer anymore. But I loved my time as a personal trainer. It was just a fascinating subject. Sports science is definitely a passion of mine. Yeah, and I used to do it for almost 10 years.
Wow. Amazing. But now, Cesar, just one last thing. Can you do a shout out for your favorite restaurant or coffee shop in Vienna? Of course. Yeah.
So all you people watching this, my shout out goes to Klyo, who is almost an extended family of mine. I'm almost a piece of furniture there because I'm always there.
Okay.
Klyo has amazing food to offer, especially very good and organic ingredients for the most part. A lot of stuff from the farms that they actually are connected with. Have good coffee, and it's a nice atmosphere because it's in the Urania, which is a very historic building, also a building of learning and information and stellar research.
Oh, really? Okay, I've never been there, but I'm going to go and try.
I recommend it.
Have a coffee, yeah. Thank you so much, Cesar, for your time and for sharing all this with me. And I'm wishing you a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. Bye.